Hello, listener. The fact you hear this means you're alive. If you're new here, consider subscribing and comment below. Where you're listening from, you must subscribe because every single subscribe helps me donate $1 to those who sacrifice for our country. Let's begin the story. I should have hung up after the first call, but you don't hang up on 911. My name is Anton, and I've been a dispatcher for the emergency services for 9 years. You hear everything in this job. Murders in progress, heart attacks, car accidents, domestic violence, suicides. After a while, you learn to separate yourself from the voices, to stay calm when everyone else is panicking. But nothing prepared me for the call that came through at 11:47 on a Thursday night. 911, what's your emergency? I answered, same as always. Silence. Not dead air. I could hear breathing. Slow. Deliberate. Like whoever was on the other end wanted me to know they were there. Hello? This is 911. Do you need help? More silence. Then softly a woman's voice. Hello, Anton. My blood went cold. Callers never know our names. The system doesn't work that way. We're anonymous voices offering help, nothing more. Ma'am, how do you know my name? She laughed. Not hysterical or scared. Amused. I've been waiting for you to answer. I called 17 times today. You were busy with other people. But now you're here. Now we can talk. I checked my screen. The call showed as coming from inside the city, but the address kept flickering, changing, like the system couldn't lock onto a location. Ma'am, I need you to tell me your emergency, I said, keeping my voice steady. Professional. My emergency? She paused. I'm not the one in danger, Anton. You are. Every dispatcher knows prank calls. Teenagers thinking it's funny. Drunk people looking for attention. But this felt different. Her voice had a quality I couldn't place. Like she was speaking from somewhere far away and very close at the same time. If this isn't an emergency, I need to clear this line. Don't you dare hang up. Her tone shifted. Sharp. Commanding. I know where you live. Apartment 312 on Riverside Avenue. I know you drink black coffee. I know you haven't talked to your sister Ingrid in 4 years. I know things about you that you've never told anyone, Anton. My hand shook as I hit the recording button. We record all calls, but I wanted to make sure I captured this. My supervisor, a woman named Petra, glanced over from her station. She must have seen something in my face. How do you know these things? I whispered. Because I've been watching. Learning, waiting for the right moment. And tonight, Anton, is the right moment. Tonight, everything changes. The line went dead. I sat frozen, staring at my screen. The call had lasted 2 minutes and 33 seconds. The address still showed as unknown. Petra walked over. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I couldn't tell Petra the truth. Not yet. It sounded insane. A caller who knew my name, my address, personal details about my life. She'd think I was stressed, burned out, in need of a vacation. Instead, I said, prank call. Someone messing around. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't quite believe me. Petra had been doing this job for 15 years. She could read people, even over the phone. Especially over the phone. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I answered calls mechanically. House fire on Elm Street. Medical emergency on Fifth Avenue. Domestic disturbance on Cherry Lane. But my mind kept returning to that woman's voice. The certainty in her words. The way she'd said my name like we were old friends. Around 3 in the morning, my phone rang again. Same unknown caller. Same flickering address. 911, what's your emergency? Did you think about what I said, Anton? Her voice sounded closer now. Like she was whispering directly into my ear. Who are you? That's not the right question. The right question is, what do I want? I glanced around the dispatch center. For other operators sat at their stations, headsets on, voices murmuring into phones. Nobody looked at me. Nobody noticed anything unusual. Okay, I said slowly. What do you want? I want you to remember, Anton. I want you to stop pretending it never happened. I want you to acknowledge what you did. My mind raced. What I did. I've been a dispatcher for 9 years. clean record, commendations for handling difficult situations. I never made a serious mistake. Never let anyone die because I failed to do my job. I don't know what you're talking about, I said. She sighed, disappointed. Of course you don't. You blocked it out, buried it so deep you convinced yourself it wasn't real. But I remember, Anton. I remember everything. The storm, the flooding, the woman who called for help while her car filled with water. My chest tightened. The storm, 6 years ago. The worst flooding our city had ever seen. Roads turned into rivers. Cars swept away like toys. And the calls, God, the calls never stopped that night. You're talking about the woman in the sedan, I whispered. Her name was Sophia. She was 28 years old. She had a daughter waiting at home. She called 911, and you answered. Do you remember what you told her, Anton? I did remember. The memory came rushing back, vivid and terrible. Sophia's voice, panicked but trying to stay calm. Water rising in her car. She was trapped on a flooded underpass, the current too strong to open her doors. I told her help was coming, that she needed to stay on the line, that everything would be okay. But help didn't come in time. The water rose too fast. Her car was swept away before rescue crews could reach her. I heard her screaming in those final moments. Heard the phone cut out as water claimed everything. That wasn't my fault, I said, but my voice cracked. I did everything I could. I followed protocol. You lied to her. The woman's voice cut through my excuses. You told her help was 2 minutes away when you knew it would take at least 10. You gave her false hope. You let her die believing rescue was just around the corner. I was trying to keep her calm. You were trying to make yourself feel better. You couldn't handle hearing her panic, so you lied. And when she died, you buried the guilt. Moved on. Pretended it was just part of the job. But I didn't forget, Anton. I never forget. The line went dead again. I sat trembling, my headset feeling too tight, the dispatch center too small. Petra was watching me now, concern etched on her face. Anton, seriously, what's going on? I pulled off my headset. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I need to take a break. Just 5 minutes. Outside, the cold November air hit me like a slap. I leaned against the building, breathing hard. Sophia's death had haunted me for months after the flood. I'd gone to therapy, talked through the guilt, eventually convinced myself I'd done everything right, that her death wasn't my responsibility. But deep down, I'd always known the truth. I had lied to her, given her false hope, made her last moments worse by filling them with desperate, futile waiting. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Shift ends at 7 a.m. Go straight home. Don't stop anywhere. We have so much more to discuss. I didn't go straight home. Instead, I drove to a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. Somewhere public. Somewhere this woman, whoever she was, couldn't corner me alone. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and grease. I sat in a booth by the window and ordered toast I wouldn't eat. My mind kept replaying Sophia's final moments. Her voice as the water rose. The desperation. The trust she placed in me. A woman slid into the booth across from me. Dark hair, pale skin, eyes that seemed to see right through me. She wore a black coat despite the diner's warmth. Hello, Anton. It was her. The voice from the phone, sitting across from me like we planned to meet. I should have run, should have called the police. But I was frozen, staring at her face. There was something familiar about her features. Something that triggered a memory I couldn't quite grasp. You're not Sophia, I said. No, Sophia's dead. You made sure of that. Then who are you? She smiled sadly. My name is Natasha. Sophia was my sister. And I've spent the last 6 years trying to understand why you let her die. The world tilted. Sophia had a sister. I never known. Never thought to ask. After her death, I'd avoided learning anything about her life. Easier not to know. Easier to forget. I didn't let her die, I said weakly. Didn't you? Natasha opened her phone and played an audio recording. My voice filled the diner, tinny but clear. Ma'am, help is 2 minutes away. Stay calm. They're almost there. Then Sophia's voice, desperate. Are you sure? The water's at my chest. I can't breathe. 2 minutes. I promise. Just hold on. The recording stopped. Natasha's eyes bore into mine. You promised. But help was 10 minutes away. The dispatch logs prove it. I filed a Freedom of Information request. Read every detail of that night. You lied to her, Anton. You gave her hope when there was none. I was trying to help. You were trying to avoid guilt. If she panicked, if she screamed and cried, you'd feel responsible. So you lied. Made it easier on yourself. Made her death cleaner. I wanted to argue. To explain. But she was right. In that moment, facing Sophia's terror, I'd chosen the comfortable lie over the harsh truth. I told myself it was the right thing to do. That keeping her calm was the priority. But really, I'd just been protecting myself. What do you want from me? I asked. Natasha leaned back, studying me. The truth is, I don't know anymore. I spent years planning this confrontation, imagining what I'd say, how I'd make you understand what you took from us. But now that I'm here, looking at you, she paused. You're just a person. A flawed, guilty person who made a mistake. Then why the phone calls? Why the theatrics? Because I needed you to remember, to feel it again. The weight of what happened. You'd moved on, Anton. You'd forgiven yourself. But my family never got that luxury. We sat in silence for a long moment. The diner's fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A waitress refilled coffee mugs at another table. Normal life continuing around us while we existed in this bubble of shared grief and guilt. There's something else, Natasha said quietly. Something I discovered while researching that night. Sophia wasn't the only one. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I mean, you've done this before. Given false hope. Made promises you couldn't keep. There were 3 other calls during your career where victims died after you'd assured them help was imminent. 3 other families who never got answers. That's not. I didn't. Their names were Klaus, Margot, and Roman. Different emergencies. Same pattern. You tell them help is coming soon. They believe you. They wait. They die waiting. She slid papers across the table. Dispatch logs. Recordings. Timestamps that didn't match my assurances. Evidence I couldn't deny. I stare at the documents, feeling my world collapse. I told myself Sophia was an isolated incident. A tragedy, but not a pattern. Not something that defined who I was as a dispatcher. But 4 people. For lives where my lies had made their final moments worse. I'm not the villain here, Anton, Natasha said. I'm just the person forcing you to look in the mirror. To see what you've become. A man who prioritizes his own comfort over other people's right to truth. She stood up, leaving the papers on the table. The question is, what will you do now? I spent the weekend reviewing those files. Every detail of the 4 calls. Every lie I'd told. Every moment I'd chosen comfort over truth. Klaus had been trapped in a burning building. I told him firefighters were 30 seconds away. They'd arrived 3 minutes later. He died from smoke inhalation while waiting by a window, believing rescue was imminent. Margot had suffered a severe allergic reaction. I'd assured her that paramedics were just around the corner. They were delayed by traffic. She'd stopped breathing 2 minutes before they arrived. She'd spent her final moments thinking help would arrive any second. Roman had been attacked, bleeding from a stab wound. I told him to stay awake, that help was coming in under a minute. The ambulance had been stuck behind a train. He'd bled out waiting, his last thoughts full of desperate hope. And Sophia. Sophia drowning in her car, water rising around her, trusting my promise that rescue was 2 minutes away. 4 people. 4 families destroyed. And all because I couldn't handle the discomfort of telling the truth. Monday morning, I walked into my supervisor's office. Petra looked up surprised. I rarely requested meetings. I need to talk to you about some calls I've handled, I said. Calls where I may have misrepresented response times. She closed her laptop, giving me her full attention. Go on. I told her everything. The lies, the pattern, the families who never knew. As I spoke, I watched her expression shift from confusion to concern to something harder. Disappointment. The investigation took 3 weeks. They reviewed every call I'd ever handled. interviewed other dispatchers, analyzed response times against my recorded assurances. The conclusion was damning, but not illegal. I'd violated best practices, undermined protocol, caused psychological harm to victims and their families. But I hadn't broken any laws. Dispatcher discretion allowed for some flexibility in how information was communicated. They offered me a choice: resign quietly or face a formal hearing that would end the same way. I resigned on a Tuesday afternoon. Petra didn't say goodbye. None of my colleagues did. They knew what I'd done, how I betrayed the trust people placed in that 911 line. I went home to my empty apartment and sat in the dark. My phone rang around 8 in the evening. "Natasha, I heard you resigned," she said. "Word travels fast. Did it help?" Confessing, I thought about it. No, it doesn't change what happened. Doesn't bring anyone back. No, she agreed. But it's a start. Accountability matters, even when it's too late to fix things. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now?" She paused. "Now you have to figure out how to live with what you've done. Just like the rest of us." She hung up. I sat in the darkness, thinking about Sophia and Klaus and Margot and Roman. Thinking about all the families who trusted me with their worst moments and how I'd failed them in the most fundamental way. I tried to move on. Found a job doing data entry at a warehouse. Something mindless. No life or death decisions. No opportunities to lie. But Natasha's calls didn't stop. Once a week, usually late at night, my phone would ring. Sometimes she'd tell me about Sophia's life. Her daughter, now 14, being raised by their parents. The grief counseling. The empty chair at family dinners. Other times, she'd share information about the other victims. Klaus had been an architect designing sustainable housing. Margot had run a youth program for at-risk kids. Roman had been studying to become a doctor. Lives with purpose, cut short. "Why do you keep calling?" I asked one night. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to remember," she said. "I want their deaths to mean something. To change you. To make you better than you were. I'm not a dispatcher anymore. I can't hurt anyone else. That's not the point, Anton. The point is understanding the weight of your choices, the ripples they create. You took the easy path 4 times, and 4 families are still suffering from that choice." I wanted to argue, to defend myself. But what defense was there? She was right. I prioritized my own comfort over other people's dignity and truth. "Tell me about Sophia," I said finally. "Not her death, her life. Who was she?" For the first time, Natasha's voice softened. She was brilliant. Funny. She could make anyone laugh, even in the worst situations. She wanted to be a marine biologist. Loved the ocean. Used to take her daughter to the beach every Sunday. I listened to stories about a woman I'd failed. A real person with dreams and quirks, and people who loved her. Not just a voice on a 911 call. Not just a statistic. Months passed. The calls continued. But something shifted. Natasha stopped sounding angry. Started sounding hurt. Like carrying this weight for 6 years had finally exhausted her. "I saw your sister last week," she said during one call. "Ingrid. She was at a coffee shop downtown." My chest tightened. "Did you talk to her?" "No. But I wanted to. Wanted to tell her about her brother. About what you did. But then I thought, what would that accomplish? More pain? More broken relationships? Natasha, I'm tired, Anton. Tired of being angry. Tired of holding on to this. It's not bringing Sophia back. It's not healing anything. It's just consuming me. Then why keep calling?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Because I don't know how to stop. This anger, this need for you to understand, it's been my purpose for so long. Without it, I don't know who I am anymore." I understood that feeling. Better than I wanted to admit. I built my identity around being a good dispatcher. Someone who helped people. When that illusion shattered, I've been left with nothing. Just guilt and the question of who I was without the lies I told myself. "Maybe we're both stuck," I said. "Maybe." She paused. "There's something I never told you. Something I found during my investigation." "What?" "On the night Sophia died, you handled 16 emergency calls. 16. You were understaffed, overwhelmed, working a double shift because 2 dispatchers called in sick. The system failed you as much as you failed, Sophia. That revelation hit me like a physical blow. I never considered the context. Never thought about the impossible situation I'd been in that night. 16 emergencies during the worst storm in the city's history. No backup. No support. That doesn't excuse what I did, I said. No, Natasha agreed. But it explains it. You were human. Overwhelmed. Making impossible choices under incredible pressure. What you did was wrong, but understanding why you did it, that matters too. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm trying to forgive you, Anton. And I think maybe you need to forgive yourself too. Not forget. Not pretend it didn't happen. But forgive. Accept what you did, accept why you did it, and figure out how to be better. Tears burned my eyes. I'd spent so long drowning in guilt, never allowing myself any grace. Never considering that the system had set me up to fail. I don't know how to forgive myself, I whispered. Neither do I, she admitted. But maybe we can figure it out together. Maybe instead of these calls being about punishment, they can be about healing. For both of us. Over the next few months, our conversations changed. We talked about grief and guilt and the impossible weight of living with mistakes. Natasha told me about her therapy, her struggle to move forward. I told her about my nightmares, the phantom voices of the 4 people who trusted me. Slowly, painfully, something shifted. The calls became less frequent. When they did come, they felt less like confrontations and more like check-ins. 2 people bound by tragedy, trying to find a way forward. A year after Natasha's first call, I received a letter in the mail. Her handwriting, neat and careful. And this will be my last communication. Not because I hate you or because I've given up, but because I need to move forward, and I think you do too. I've spent too long defining myself by my sister's death, by anger at you, by the need for justice or revenge or whatever it was I thought I wanted. But that anger has become a cage. It's kept me from healing, from living. I forgive you. Not because what you did was okay. Not because it doesn't matter. But because holding on to this hatred is destroying me, and Sophia wouldn't have wanted that. She was all about moving forward, about finding joy even in dark places. You made a mistake. Several mistakes. Mistakes that cost lives. That's a truth you'll carry forever. But you're also a human being who deserves the chance to grow, to change, to be better. I don't know what you'll do with your life now, but I hope you find a way to honor those 4 people. Not through guilt or self-punishment, but through becoming someone who values truth, who prioritizes others' dignity over personal comfort. Be well, Anton. And please, for both our sakes, learn to forgive yourself. Natasha. I read that letter a dozen times. Then I did something I've been avoiding for 4 years. I called my sister Ingrid. Hello. Her voice, familiar and distant. Ingrid. It's Anton. I know it's been a long time, but I need to talk to you. About some things I've done. Some things I need to make right. That was 3 years ago. I never heard from Natasha again. Sometimes I wonder if she's okay, if she found the peace she was searching for. I hope she did. I reconciled with Ingrid. Told her everything, the lies, the deaths, the guilt that had consumed me. She was angry at first, disappointed. But slowly, we rebuilt our relationship. She helped me see that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning from it. I volunteer now at a crisis center. Not as a counselor, I'm not qualified for that, and honestly, I don't trust myself with that responsibility. But I answer phones for people considering suicide. I listen, and when they ask if things will get better, if help is really coming, I tell them the truth. Even when it's hard. Even when lies would be easier. I tell them that I don't know. That healing takes time. That some days are unbearable. But that truth is always better than false hope. That dignity matters, even in our darkest moments. Sometimes late at night, my phone rings. Unknown number. My heart races, wondering if it's Natasha, if she needs to talk, if the anger has returned. But I always answer, because that's what I do now. I answer. I listen. I tell the truth. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough. The 4 people I failed will never come back. Their families will carry that loss forever. But maybe by being honest now, by prioritizing truth over comfort, I'm honoring their memories, making their deaths mean something. I'll never know if that's enough, but it's all I have. And so I keep answering, keep listening, keep hoping that somewhere, somehow, I'm doing a little better than I did before. The phone is ringing now. A no number. I take a breath and answer. Hello. This is Anton. I'm listening.